Music Matters. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by earnest. How are we doing, my friends?
Yeah, good.
Great.
Thanks for coming on the show, guys. We appreciate it.
No worries at all. It's a pleasure.
And you guys are the guinea pigs for the whole Zoom thing, the first virtual one, but we unfortunately cannot be together.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'd have to hop over the pond to get together in the future.
Just a quick little pond hop, yeah.
Just a quick trip.
Yeah, just a little one. All right, guys, tell me about the new release. What's coming on the pipe, the inspiration behind it. Let's hear about it.
So we got a double single, 2 songs about dogs. Tom wrote the first song, didn't you?
Yeah, I wrote Your Dog, which is the first track. I wrote it one day. I had kind of a chorus part, and it was just the line, "I just want to be your dog." And I thought that's kind of similar to some other songs that I know exist, like random songs. Iggy Pop and the Stooges comes to mind, and there's a Soccer Mummy song called Your Dog. And I just sort of went with it, and I kind of thought, how can I make this into a song? Because I'm saying I just want to be your dog, and I thought it could be some weird thing that people might think I'm singing about. But in the end, I kind of thought, well, if I make the verses that it's all the questions that I'd love to ask Murph if she could talk, then her answer to me in the chorus to every question is just, I don't care, I want to be your dog. I just want to do what I do, live in the moment, because that's what dogs do, they live in the moment. And I think a lot of us could take something from that, because sometimes it's very hard to live in the moment all the time, but they do it so well. So yeah, that was how that song came about.
And I wrote the second song. I originally had an old song about our dog Doug when we first adopted him, and I kind of, it wasn't ever really finished. And so when Tom had this song about Murph, I was like, right, I need to, by this point Doug had passed away, and so I was like, right, I can get a new perspective on this whole dog ownership thing, and I can write a song about how difficult it is to lose a dog. And so that came about very quickly, and then we kind of decided that they went together really well as a pairing, and has a nice duality to it, that they're both about dogs, and both kind of sung by both of us as owners. So that's how it came about.
Yeah, it's the first time that we've sung kind of the whole way through, so it's not normally something that we would do, but we decided as kind of co-owners it makes sense that we just sing the whole song together, and do something different. And it was the first time that we've kind of self-recorded and mixed it ourselves, kind of as a little lockdown kind of project, I guess. So yeah, it's a little bit different to the EP that you guys reviewed back in October. But yeah, we just thought we'd do something nice, do it at home where the dogs live, and with Murph sitting there as well. In one of the songs, you should be able to hear her collar moving and stuff, and we just thought that was cool, kind of leaving it all in there.
Did you guys have any other songs about people's dogs that kind of influenced this one? Like, I can think of like Bron-Y-Aur Stomp by Led Zeppelin, or something, that kind of stuff, just like these songs that people have written as like love letters to their pets. I didn't know if you guys had any of those that were sort of inspirations.
Yeah, there weren't so much inspirations, but we have put together a playlist that we'll post out at some point. We tried to kind of see how many songs are there actually about dogs, because like the Led Zeppelin song isn't really about a dog, but there's some great songs like Martha My Dear by the Beatles. You've got Putting the Dog to Sleep by the Antlers. I can't remember what else was in there in that list.
Quite a few.
It escapes my mind, but yeah, so they were, I mean, for us it was a case of, this is something that we've experienced, and we thought it unlikely that we would write a whole record, like a whole album or EP about dog songs, so it made sense that we've got 2 songs about dogs, we'll kind of record them and kind of put those out together. But yeah, it's hard to find songs about specific dogs. There's like a Mac DeMarco song that mentions about dogs, but it's not really about dogs.
In our research, we kind of realized that there's there's a few songs about dogs, but there's not really any songs about losing a pet and a dog dying, really. That sounds a bit abrupt.
It's
but,
obviously the song is less morbid than, you know, just summing it up like this song's about a dead dog. But yeah, I mean, essentially the whole idea came about very organically. We didn't kind of think, let's write songs about dogs. It's just something that happened. And I mean, when we write songs, we're just all about writing about stuff that we know, and we know about dogs and having dogs. So yeah, to us it just makes sense, and it came together very naturally. And hopefully people like it. And I think even if you haven't got dogs, I think that some of the ideas in the songs transcend, you know, what animal you're talking about. There are ideas in both songs about grief and also about optimism and kind of feeling grateful for certain really good things you've got in your life. Like we feel really grateful to have our dogs, like those specific dogs that we have, because we can't imagine, you know, our lives without them in a way. So even if you're not a fan of dogs, hopefully there's something in the lyrics that you can relate to in some way, we hope.
I know you guys were talking about like how organically and naturally the song came together. And I know that you, Tom, were saying that you actually like had this chorus idea, like I want to be your dog, and then brought it in, and then you guys kind of like developed the song all together. Like, would you say that's something that you guys stick to in all your songs? Like, do you guys like have someone has one idea, you bring it into the other two, and then you guys kind of like collaborate and like think about other ideas to add to it, or do you guys like write together, or what's up with that?
So it's slightly different for every song, but normally the process will work. I write a song or Tom writes a song. We very rarely write together, which is funny because we pretty much do everything else together. And we're a couple, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, one of us will write a song and it'll almost be fully formed structure-wise before the other two come and work on it. But then we work on arrangements together, and obviously get Toby's parts in and stuff. But with the songs about the dogs, it was very much, we focused on the song as a raw piece, and we did a live performance recording in this room, and we kind of just let Toby do whatever he wants. So we kind of, as we're working remotely with Toby, we kind of just sent the songs off, and we were like, put on whatever you think fits, and he sent it back, and we were like, cool, done. He's quite good at just putting in random stuff, and it works. So
I think the reason we don't often sit down and kind of write together is mainly because we have quite different processes. So I really need to kind of start from the top and kind of finish a section, and then move on to the next section, and then now that section, and then move on. Whereas Sarah, I think, kind of is quite happy to kind of sketch out what she wants, you know, top to bottom right away. Whereas I'm like, I can't, I have to like get each bit right before I can move on. So that is essentially the reason that we don't write together very often. But the reason behind us both singing these songs all the way through was that, being co-owners, it just made sense to kind of have those double vocals all the way through. And again, it's something we didn't do on the first EP. It's just something different for people to hear us in a slightly different way, I guess.
That's super interesting to me too. Like I would assume, like from an outside perspective, I would think you guys were always writing it together, because to me, like the majority of your songs sound like polished enough to the point where it's like, I would assume that you guys were cohesively like in the same room writing together. But I think it's cool that you can like make it work by just going from like one idea to another idea, and then they kind of collide. Yeah, that's really cool. But one thing I wanted to ask you about too was the artwork for this. That I'm not sure if it was like a painting or digital art, but it was gorgeous. So how'd you meet the artist for that, and who is he? Because he seems extremely talented.
So they're actual paintings that we have on the wall. So our friend Chris Asher, who's a musician as well, he kind of made these for us, not for this release, but for
Just for us to have.
Just for us to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he.
So when we had to have Doug put down, he made us that. He came the next time we saw our friend. He brought that round for us, and it's weird because the pictures of them don't really do them justice. But when you see, especially Doug's one in person, it literally looks exactly like him. Like I couldn't change anything about it.
If you look at the painting, the eyes just like come to life as you look at it. It's really weird. But it was a cool gift from him, and we were like, as soon as we kind of thought about the double single, we thought, oh, we need artwork. We were both just like, it's got to be the paintings.
Yeah, we tried to kind of look at what what else we've recently done and try and do something different. So everything from the first EP was very like photographic, all based on real photos that we had. And we just kind of thought, it was nice to do something completely different. Everything on the EP also had this kind of like black and white and purple look to it, and we've gone with different coloring and stuff like that. So I guess we not only put a lot of time and effort into the songs, but also how we present them, what the artwork is, so that we feel like what we're putting out is a piece of art rather than just a song with some picture we found and just thought we'll use that. So hopefully that comes across with what we do and what we put out, like, because we do take our time with it, and we do kind of try and get it so we're really happy with it. That's quite important to us, I think.
Well, I'm stoked to hear you guys say that, because honestly, so many people like forget about the importance of like album covers. Like the image that you portray on those things is just like the most important thing for musicians, because you're basically saying like, here's what our art means to us. And it doesn't even at some times it's not even like a true representation of what your art means. It's just something that someone threw on there and you're like, this is what I think is cool, So it's really nice to hear you guys say that, like, okay, we really wanted to do something a little different from like the classic like indie like purple and white undertone to all of our albums, and then suddenly they're going to get this review of just like, and they see two dogs and like, ooh, I wonder what this is, like, it's like, it's also a nice change because you guys are matching that change that you guys have with like your singing, like you guys are singing duet the whole time, so it's really cool that I can like hear you guys like really like planning out the ideas of like the importance of album covers.
Yeah. Also on this single, the duet is gorgeous. Like I just want to let you guys know that, because like I was super good.
That's one. Thank you. Appreciate that. We just think it's important. I mean, because we had a lot of time on our hands when we were kind of locked down at home for most of last year. That was kind of the thing that gave us the freedom and the time to, like, we made loads of music videos from home. I think we made 4 videos last year. And we've made a video for each of these songs as well, which we'll put out a couple of weeks after the songs are released. It's all super important to us. And again, I think that putting that extra effort into the presentation and making sure that all of it kind of matches up and it's all very unique, I think is, hopefully interesting for other people as well, and keeps them wanting to kind of see what's next.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it definitely keeps people interested, because I feel like too, when you're putting as much effort into like your videos and your art as you are into your music, it makes you into an identity, and which is something that I think it's very underrated in musicianship. And I don't know, I've always felt like, ever since I heard your guys' stuff and I started listening to you, I felt like what really made you stick out was that you had this discrete mission and to pursue a conversation about mental health. And that was what was interesting to me about this track, or these 2 tracks. It's like they definitely have a sad tone without a doubt, but to me, it seemed there's a bit more of a silver lining this time. Would you guys say that this double release is a bit more of a stray away from your normal conversation of mental health?
I would say it kind of is and it isn't. I think that the conversation around mental health isn't necessarily tied purely to like what is wrong, what diagnosis you may have. It's kind of all about just kind of getting into the idea of human experience. So and sharing what you feel and how you deal with it. So especially the second track, Sarah's track, Good Boy, it's about how you deal with the sadness, and you know, you can choose to wallow in it and just feel sorry for yourself, but also there's a message in there that, you know, you can be grateful for the time that you did have with that pet, or that, you know, like you say, there is some silver lining in there that you can take. And again, I think moving away from dogs or pets, you could it could be about a family member, it could be about someone that you care about, it could be read into in different ways. And I think I think it's still all connected. I think our thing, as in Earnest, I think is just taking real kind of like situations and emotions and trying to kind of make something positive out of them. I mean, even if we write a sad song, the moment that lots of people listen to a sad song, I think it becomes less of a sad thing. It becomes shared by lots of people, and that can only be for good, really. That can only be a good thing. So yeah, I think it is a bit of a stray away, but not so far that it's just not about it's just not dealing with topics like depression or anxieties. It's kind of about probably more relatable emotions than before, which is not something we always go for, but it's just what it is. It's just the two songs that we wrote, and
it's just giving me a bath.
yeah,
give me to death.
So
in the future, do you think you want to stay on that conversation of mental health, or do you probably have intentions to kind of stray away from it? Like, I guess my question would be, is the music first, or is the conversation about mental health first?
Good question.
That is a good question. I think definitely stuff that we've got planned in the next 6 months. The topic is still talked about, but also we're not afraid to stray from it somewhat as well. I mean, we've got an EP in the works that I've got 3 songs on there that I wrote, and 2 are very much mental health based, and 1 is about climate change. So it's still bringing an important topic that, you know, we feel is very meaningful and important to us, and bring it to the forefront of that conversation, and hoping that it will just broaden everything that we're about.
Yeah, I guess I think the mental health element will stay a part of our music because it's so linked to us. It's almost unavoidable. So I don't know I can't remember if we included it in kind of past press releases and stuff, but Sarah's struggled with her mental health for like 10, 11 years. And so it's such a part of kind of life for us. It's not saying that it's a bad and it's a struggle every single day, but it's present so often that it's almost like, how can it not be in the music? It's gonna the subject will seep in there in one way or another. But I think to answer in terms of what we have coming up after this single, it kind of gets a little bit heavier of a subject on the next EP, which we're hoping will be out in October, November time. It doesn't have these 2 songs on it. It's a completely fresh batch of songs that we managed to record in September just gone, wasn't it? So yeah, I think it's still there. I think it will stay there. Maybe one day we'll decide to write a whole EP or a record about something completely different, but
for now it's a bit hard to ignore. I think
we won't know until we get there.
Is writing about that kind of stuff like kind of sort of cathartic for you guys in a way? Because I know a lot of artists kind of express their writing process as like digesting their thoughts and kind of like, you know, putting them onto paper kind of turns them into something else and helps you like take the bad and turn it into something good. I guess I'm just sort of wondering how that process feels through the lens of mental health, and like if it feels sort of like a cathartic experience for you guys.
It is definitely a cathartic experience. I mean, sometimes I don't even know how I'm feeling until I actually write it down and turn it into a song, which is interesting. I mean, yeah, like there's been songs in the past. I've completed a song and then I've gone back and thought, oh my god, that was how I was feeling all this time. I didn't even know it. So it is very weird, but very cathartic at the same time. And I think, yeah, being able to channel that emotion and being able to turn it into a piece of art is something so positive out of something so negative.
Yeah, I think one really cool thing is that through kind of writing songs that are really that are super personal, they almost become, as time moves on, because I mean, between writing a song and actually having it released, normally it works out like a year at minimum. Normally it's like somewhere between a year and 2 years between a song being written and out there, and sometimes it's it can be slightly difficult, I guess, if you no longer feel a certain way and yet you're still playing out, performing old songs live, and you don't feel that way anymore and you don't connect with it. I can see that maybe isn't great, but I like the way that songs almost become like a little time capsule of their own. So like Sarah said, she can go back and listen to something that she worked on 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and go like, either, I'm glad I'm out of that feeling and that situation and I'm doing better, or maybe it's like the opposite. It could be the opposite. Who knows? It depends how you are at the time.
I feel like sometimes I understand myself better by going back and listening to my old material, because I say things so bluntly sometimes, and it's quite awakening, I would say.
And another nice thing as well is that we do get a lot of messages from people who say like, this song that you wrote, I've read the lyrics and I totally get it, like it totally resonates. And that's really good as well, because that's part of, that's a little bit more of a selfless side of writing personal songs, is that that if certain people feel the same or can share the experience, they might get something out of your song, and that's really awesome as well, feeling like you're actually making a difference, and actually singing about things that are important, not only to yourself but to other people who, like, especially when the topic is so taboo to kind of talk about and be open about, or it has been for so long. Like we definitely get people. I mean, even the dog songs or not these dog songs, but we mentioned about dogs in another song, in the song "Put Me Under" from our first EP, and we got a message the other day saying, I've lost my dog a little while ago, and I've just found your song, and I totally relate. Like I absolutely love it, because I understand what you're saying, and I feel that way, and I'm glad that someone else does. That's really cool.
Also, with the mental health aspect of it, I think we've also got messages before where people have said, I've listened to this song and understood it, and it's made me actually start a conversation with somebody about, and sharing their mental illness or their problems with someone, and that's a lovely feeling, knowing that someone's having a conversation that they wouldn't otherwise have had without our song. So that's kind of
knowing
the rewarding part.
Knowing how important that is from your experience as well makes that even more kind of that's special, I suppose.
Well, keeping on the topic of mental health, I don't want to get too personal, but I really want to ask you guys, because we have a lot of like musicians, including myself and Ian, that like love to ask stuff about like, how has the COVID-19 pandemic have affected your mental health and like just your writing process in general? Like, have you felt a deeper connection to that state of like expressing yourself through songs, like since the pandemic started? Like, do you feel it's different from when you guys first started the band? Like, I would love to hear a little more about that.
And actually, if I could tag on to that, I also wanted to ask you guys about, because like a lot of your music does feel very like sort of homey. It's got that like home baked feel that you guys even kind of talked about in your EPK, about how you guys wanted to make these two singles feel very personal and up close. So like in one of the songs, you can hear the sound of like your chairs creaking and like the dog collar rattling. And so I also kind of wanted to know if like that has sort of reinforced that even more for you guys, or if like it's kind of encouraged you to explore more sounds off of that.
Okay, cool. So for the first bit, well, we hadn't really been a band that long before lockdown. I think we'd been together like a year, and we'd only done about 3 gigs together. And although we all previously knew each other from a previous project, it was still like quite a weird experience just having not been out that long and then being locked down. I think it did allow us to be a little bit more connected with our art, because we had time to actually sit down, and we got a massive big old whiteboard over there, and we just note down all the like, what's the message in this song, how are we going to promote it, what's our PR behind it, and it allowed us that time to really connect and invest in our product, I think. But
I think as well, it's yeah, it felt at the time a little bit like being like just about to kind of get going, and then you just get shut down, and you're like, great. So the shows that we had planned to promote the first EP coming out, you know, weren't able to happen. Everything, you know, it was kind of like not. I think from previous experience, going out and playing live is so important in terms of actually picking up new listeners and just getting out there, that without that it felt really like wow, how are we going to do this, like how is this going to work, or are we going to be in the same position we are now in like, you know, however long this COVID period takes to kind of get back to normal. And so yeah, it I guess it did give us time. It gave us time to kind of build things up. I mean, we basically worked out that we need to just sit behind our laptops and just get like kind of virtually meet as many people as we can. And like we've started our own PR company, basically because we had the time in lockdown, and we did all our own. The first kind of PR run we did the start of last year kind of went so well that we got asked by a few other artists, oh, like, do you want to like do ours for us as well, we'll pay you. So we kind of have ended up making Neat Siren PR, which is Neat Siren is an acronym for In Earnest. So we've kind of had time to set that up as, again, another way to kind of have some income, and also just to make use of all this kind of skills that we've learned, and give ourselves a reason to get good at PR and approaching people and finding contacts and all that kind of stuff. So I think at first it was very much like, this is going to be really horrible. It's going to be like 2 years of not doing much. But actually, I think that now that the UK kind of has a roadmap to normality, I feel like when we are able to go and gig, we'll probably have another EP out, and I think it will be such a stronger like kind of start to our life as a live band than if we had done it last year, only because we've had so much time to promote ourselves and kind of just kind of get some awareness spread about who we are and what we're doing, what the message is. So I think it's turned out to be a good thing, a good outcome.
Yeah,
I hope.
I like that. It's kind of like a rebirth in a way, you know, like a lot of musicians found themselves like actually dying through this pandemic and forgetting all hopes of being musicians. You guys somehow find a way to like rise above that burnout of actually being musicians and not thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? Like, I can't play gigs. What is this? To actually like kind of investing in yourselves and trying to grow as best you could during the given the situation. So it's really comforting to hear that for the viewers that are musicians, and for for you guys too.
And to answer the other bit about being at home and that seeping into our recordings, I do think it we did want to kind of reflect a kind of lockdown kind of version of ourselves, and by recording those 2 songs kind of live in our living room kind of vibe, I think that is a good way of portraying kind of what it's felt like for us.
I think it's good as well, because through having recorded this double single at home and kind of mixed it ourselves and everything, we actually enjoyed the process, because it was, I mean, we love recording. Recording our 2 EPs has been made like just fantastic to do, so enjoyable to do. But it was just a different experience to do things at home and have it all very low key. And it does make you very relaxed about recording. I think that the relaxed, having been feeling relaxed, you then like perform a certain way, which really works well for kind of acoustic based, kind of soft, quiet songs. And we all kind of agreed. We did the dog songs, mixed it, had it mastered, and we were like, we actually really like the kind of vibe that it has. So we will probably record record more things at home, and kind of do it ourselves, which is great because it saves loads of money as well. So that's always a bonus. More dog toys for Murph that way.
And then plus, I mean, you guys are not only saving money from that, you're saving money from doing your own PR. I feel like that's such an underrated trade and such an underrated thing that people don't think about, is that like there's a big difference from like sending your music around and doing like legitimate PR. Did you guys find yourself like researching lots about PR before you started this company? When you started this company, did it come as like a supplemental income for live music? I'd love to hear some more about your PR company, because that's fascinating to me. I think that's such a cool and interesting thing to do.
Well, it kind of, well, yeah, before we even did our own PR, we kind of were looking at PR companies and thinking, wow, the prices are just extortionate and we don't know if we're even going to get anything from it. So let's try and have a look at doing our own kind of DIY version of that. And I got loads of books at the library. I was reading every article I could on the internet, and I kind of made this big old notepad of my findings. And then we realized that a press release and the writing behind it is quite a big part, but that's all right because I'm already a freelance writer on the side, so I can do the writing kind of thing like in my sleep. And then
I here's a fact about me that you'll love. I just love a list. I love making lists. I like that. Includes playlists, that includes shopping lists. Anything to do with a list to me is so satisfying. I don't even know why. I've always just been obsessed with making lists. So in essence, I kind of tasked myself with finding as many kind of music outlets, blogs, just everything as I could. And we've probably sank hundreds of hours into building the database that we have. And again, thanks to lockdown, because otherwise we wouldn't have done that. It would have been much, much smaller. And not only that, but now when, you get an artist kind of interested, kind of all of that research is obviously ongoing. You always have to kind of keep building it, keep and maintain it. But a lot of the time, especially with the artists that kind of we are geared up for working with, they all kind of fit within similar genres. So kind of anywhere between like indie, folk, even country,
Americana kind of.
Yeah, kind of, and even rock as well. Like we're kind of already prepared and already have a lot of contacts for kind of places that are going to be interested in that kind of music. So, and the other thing as well is that we know from personal experience that unless you pay like top dollar to big PR companies, I mean, you pay like not a cheap amount, you pay like a decent amount to a smallish company who you can actually afford, which we have done in the past. And you see the stuff that they send out and it's got spelling mistakes in it and it's got bad information, links that don't work, and you kind of pulling your hair out like, why are we paying someone to do that? Like
we could create something better.
When Sarah is a writer and we kind of figure that we spend so much time figuring out what In Earnest is about and who we are and what we have to say, that actually we are the best people to kind of promote ourselves and to kind of try and push out there. All it takes is sitting there for hundreds of hours looking for music sites and email addresses, but we've done it now.
And
so.
I think one of the things was we wanted to try and keep it affordable so that other musicians like ourselves could afford it, because we know we've been there, we've been skin, and we've not been able to afford stuff in the past. And so by keeping it fairly affordable and it being run by musicians is like a little bit of a USP, I think. And yeah, I mean, we haven't worked with that many people yet, but it's been really fun, and I hope it continues. I mean, we have other jobs. I'm a writer, and Tom is a music teacher, and so we have other incomes as well. But hopefully, it will turn into something good.
Yeah, it's really fun, like kind of working on things from a different perspective. Sarah's really good at one thing that we've never seen before is actually PR companies who do like face-to-face meetings with you. Normally it's just you pay them, you email back and forth, and they collect all the stuff, make something that they're going to send out, and they say, is this okay? And you say yes or no. But like what we do is actually like face call with the artist initially, talk about what exactly is that they think are their what is their story. Kind of, we realized through doing our own work that it's so important to kind of present the material in the right way to relevant people, and just we don't think that happens in PR normally. And again, hopefully just these small things kind of the personal touch is quite important, I think. And it's fun as well. Like a lot of the artists that we've done PR with, that we're kind of made friends with them, and they're artists that we would love to go and do shows with, and they, not all of them live in the UK, but I dare say that some of them we will kind of play shows with at some point and stuff like that. So it's awesome.
Those artists that you're doing PR for, how'd you find them? Did they find you, or did you like put yourself out there as a PR company? How'd that happen?
The first one asked us to do their PR before we even really were a PR company.
That's why it started, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's how it started. It was just a kind of mutual friend who's a musician, and she kind of said, like, your guys' PR is great, can you just do mine? And so we were like, yeah. And so that very much came to us. But then we kind of we're like on a kind of few Facebook groups where we've got connections of people who like the same music as us, and so through that we found a few people, just always in the search for music that we like, and because if we like it, we want to push it, and naturally it should be a good fit for us. So we just listen to loads of different music, and if they're like not huge, then we're like, yeah, do you fancy having some PR done for you?
And even if they don't, it's great like to know, like mainly last year there's so many artists that kind of are based in the UK, I mean, and other places, that we would love to hook up with like next year or later this year and play a show with. So it's been kind of like research that's going to get used in different ways. Yeah, it's going to get used in a PR way potentially. It's going to be useful for In Earnest, because they're bands that we really like and we would like to play with. So yeah, it's just, again, making the most of the work you're doing. If you're doing a bit of work, it's almost like try and be thoughtful about it and make sure that you're doing it for a reason, and not spending too much time doing things aimlessly, I guess. Using your time well, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
As far as those artists go that you guys are interested in like linking up with and possibly playing shows, as a musician myself, I often find myself being kind of inspired and influenced by local bands a lot. I was curious if you guys have any local bands that you guys like look up to, or take influence from, or just like, or just find really, really interesting that kind of just inspires you to contribute to the local scene.
I mean, really locally, within our hometown, there's a guy called Leo Walrus, he's quite young. I think he's like, I know he's not that young anymore, is he? He's probably about 19.
We're just old.
But, yeah, we're just old. No, he plays kind of like, I would say it's like folk music. It's quite like retro kind of folk music, but he's really good. There's another guy locally called Fraser Catini, who doesn't even have any music recorded, but he sort of plays locally, and he's really good. I think he's only about 15 or something like that. No, he's not, is
I
he?
think he's older than that as well.
No one's as young as I think they are. That's
we're
weird.
just old.
Yeah.
There's quite a big folk scene in our town, because there's a massive folk fest that happens, and literally everyone around just appears for this weekend and then goes back to their little hidey holes.
Yeah. I mean, other small artists. We did PR for an artist from Nottingham, which isn't close to us, but he's Night Bus Revival. The name went out of my head then. I could think of the EP name, but not the Night Bus Revival. We did it PR for him, and he's great. Melanie Baker's one of our friends from Cumbria. She's really good. There's Elkin and Don Major.
There's so many.
Loads of people that we kind of met last year. So again, lockdown positives. Yeah.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, I just love asking people this, like, who would you say, like, both individually and collectively are like your biggest musical influences? Because when I heard your music, and then I read your description, it said that you guys had like Better Oblivion Community Center as like one of your main like influences to your sound. And then when I hear it, I hear like elements of Phoebe Bridgers, I hear elements of Radiohead, I hear elements of Gideon King and City Blog. Like, can you guys talk about in each of you, like who you look up to as a musician, and then like collectively who you guys are like, not so much trying to like capture and portray, but just like people that you like to listen to like get inspiration.
Should we take it in turn?
Yeah. So the Beatles for me.
Phoebe Bridgers.
Phoebe, definitely. Noah Gunderson, I love.
Bruce Springsteen.
Dodie, I don't know if you've heard of her, British female singer.
Bob Dylan.
Oh my god, there's so many. Glenn Hansard. Oh my god, Glenn Hansard is so good.
Big Thief and Adrian Lenker. Amazing.
Murph loves anything country. She's a country gal. Toby, we should probably mention Toby. He's a third of our band, but he's just a folk person through and through. He's really into the folk scenes.
A lot of Irish and Scottish
yeah.
stuff. It's just people's names. They don't really have band names, do they? It's literally just like John Davis, and they just have names like really generic names.
Yeah,
I
in
guess.
the folk scene, they're like pretty much like that.
I gonna throw a curveball. I'm like grew up as like a pop punk and a metal kid, so like Newfound Glory, Yellow Card. I'm quite into like black metal as well, like Immortal and Abath and Behemoth. It's a real mixed bag, like between all of us. I think on the second EP that we're not supposed to be talking about really, but on the second EP we kind of consciously left all the influences in there and kind of put them on show, so it's quite varied.
There is some screaming on it.
Yeah, there is some
in the
screaming,
background there's some screaming,
gang vocals and all sorts of stuff.
Drop C guitar?
Yeah, drop C tuned guitars. We are a mixed bag. I think it just comes mainly from a love of kind of music in general. We all each have our own things that we love, but collectively we try and kind of put it all together, and hopefully that's what In Earnest is, just a kind of mixing pot of all those influences.
That's awesome. Hers too. She has some big influences as well. All right, guys. So tell everybody where to find the new release when it comes out. What's coming down the pipe?
Cool. So on 12th of March, you can find Your Dog Good Boy, a double single. It's going to be on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. We don't normally go everywhere. I think that's all the ones they're the only ones we bother with. It will be on Bandcamp as well if anyone wants to download it. There will be music videos coming for it as well soon on our YouTube channel. And you can stay up to date with everything we're doing on our Instagram, Facebook. We're at In Earnest Band, and also on inearnest.co.uk, our website as well. Yeah, we're just hoping to plan a few shows. Unfortunately, not in the States. At the end of 2019, we went to New York, and we were supposed to play a show in New York, but weirdly connected to the dog songs, we had to fly home early because Doug had started to have seizures. So, and that was the reason we had to have him put down. So we were supposed to play an American show, but
Yeah,
it didn't end up happening, unfortunately.
that was one hell of a week.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream, is to like tour in the States. Like, it's just, I think for the kind of
We'd love to have you guys.
yeah, no, we'd absolutely love it. I think for the kind of music that we make, it is inherently quite American sounding, but I think that's because we love so much American music. And yeah, we always have, even before In Earnest was a band. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys one day. That'd be amazing.
Hopefully, guys. We appreciate you coming on. It was a great conversation, a lot of fun. I'm excited for everybody to hear the new release. So appreciate you guys.
That's fine. Yeah, thank you for
Thank
having
you so
us.
much
It's
for
been
your
a pleasure.
time. You got
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
Music
Let's
matters.
say, Murph have anything to say before we go?
Wave.
Yeah, Murph, any final thoughts?
Hey.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys.